الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بي واليد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا والسلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك. ودخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب اللواء قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي.
Abbas Hussain, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله أتأذنني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ برسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم أن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
قال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت سماء بنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. قال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
محمد وعجل فرجهم.
فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذنني أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنني يا رسول الله؟ قال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله فإنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبر لي ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
فقال برسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيه واصطفاني بالرسالة النجية ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد.
Jazakallah, Abbas Sent. May Allah increase your tawfiqat. I request everyone to please recite Surah Fatiha for marhumin of the participants and all marhumin, kullu mu'minin mu'minat. مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل
محمد وآل
محمد.
محمد.
Now I will request Sayyid Munis Raza Abdi to please come forward and recite salam.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم
صل
صل
على
على
محمد
محمد
وآل
وآل محمد
محمد وعجل
فرجهم.
پروردگار عالم سے دعا ہے کہ پروردگار ہماری اس ادنا سی عبادت کو اپنی بارگاہ میں قبولیت کا شرف دے. بعد دیگر ہم دعا کرتے ہیں کہ پروردگار ہمارا شمار اہل بیت کے چاہنے والوں میں کرے اور بی بی جناب سیدہ کے قاتلوں پر ہم لعنت کرتے. پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئی زخم چھپایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں، زخم چھپایا نہ گیا، درد اتنا تھا کہ حیدر کو بلایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں، زخم چھپایا نہ گیا۔
سبحان اللہ۔
رو کے حسنین کو دی فاطمہ زہرا نے صدا، رو کے حسنین کو دی فاطمہ زہرا نے صدا، جلتا دروازہ جو فضا سے اٹھایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں، زخم چھپایا نہ گیا، ایک ظالم تو یہی کہتا رہا عمر تمام، ایک ظالم تو یہی کہتا رہا عمر تمام، جتنا زہرا کو ستانا تھا ستایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ اس طرح پھاڑ کے پھینکی تھی سند احمد کی، اس طرح پھاڑ کے پھینکی تھی سند احمد کی، ایک بھی ٹکڑا وہ زہرا سے اٹھایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں، جیسے جلتا ہوا دروازہ گرا زہرا پر، جیسے جلتا ہوا دروازہ گرا زہرا پر، اس طرح سے کسی بی بی پہ گرایا نہ گیا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں، زخم چھپایا نہ گیا، درد اتنا تھا کہ حیدر کو بلایا نہ گیا پسلیاں تو بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For all the sick and especially who are wounded are going through difficulties. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما يجيب المضطر إذا
دعاه ويكشف السوء
أما يجيب
المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء
أما
من يجيب
المضطر
المضطر
إذا
إذا
دعاه
دعاه
ويكشف
ويكشف
السوء
السوء
أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه
دعاه
ويكشف
ويكشف
السوء.
السوء.
بارے محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ماشاءاللہ مونس بڑا اچھا پڑھا.
Yeah, thank you very much once again for participating in this majlis. I will request Maulana Sayyid Asad Jafri to please come forward and recite the majlis. بارے محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل
اللهم
على
صل على
محمد
محمد وآل
وعجل فرجهم. Before I begin, may I ask you all to please recite a Surah Fatiha for your marhumin, for my marhumin, for the Shahadat of Islam, for the marhumin of the family of the organizers of this majlis. And if you can please include the son of Maulana Shafiq Huda, who passed away yesterday, Mukhtar Huda, and also anybody else that you may think of, please. Fatiha. Bismillah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. First of all, let me send my condolences to the Imam of our time, the Rahbar of the Ummah, the Maraje, all of you, my sisters and brothers in Islam, on the day of the Shahadat of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra Salamu alayha. Well, I know that it's past Maghrib now, and the day of the 3rd of Jamal al-Akhir now has passed. But still, this is the weekend of Fatimiyya, and these are days that for us are no less than the days of Ashura. And these are very difficult days for the Shias all over the world. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts our grief and our gham, and that He gives us no gham in this world except for the gham of Ali Muhammad, inshallah. I wanted to tonight speak a little bit about a concept in the Quran that we get actually from Luqman Hakim. As many of you know, one of the many legacies that Sayyidah Fatima left behind for us to follow was her immense love for the Quran. And we don't have to go any further than to look at the life of her Kaniz Fidda. Here was a woman who was brought in to assist Sayyidah Fatima around the house, but her adala and her justice and her compassion for mankind, Sayyidah Fatima's, was such that she would tell Fidda, one day you work and one day I will work. But more important than that was that it appeared, at least now, when we see the results of Fidda now becoming a talking Quran, that she would not speak unless she quoted the Quran. It does appear from this that we gain the fact that Sayyidah Fatima was somebody who not only gained from the Quran, but also taught the Quran to those who were around her. If that's the case, one legacy that I want us to uphold now is to not only read the Quran, and mashallah many of you do, but begin to extract life lessons from this book. Surah Luqman is the 31st surah of the Quran. And in there, Luqman Hakim, who was not a prophet of God, but a man who had wisdom, and very famously the advice that he gave his son, a little bit of that advice has been included in the verses of this surah. I think around verse number 16 now is where he begins, Ya Bunayya, and begins to talk about establishment of salat and enjoining the good and fearing Allah. But what I want to speak about tonight is verse number 19. In fact, the first half of verse number 19 in this chapter. It is an outstanding discussion, and one that I think is very relevant to today, and hopefully my youth and my young guys out there are listening. And I'll try to keep it brief. I mean, in this online world, having long, drawn-out speeches are very difficult, not only to deliver to a camera, but also to listen to on a device. Khair. The verse starts off by saying, وَقْصِدْ فِي مَشْيِكَ. Now there is, if you look at some translations, they have various meanings to, what this means. Some say, find moderation in your pace. Some say, find a balance in your walk. The word qasd sometimes in Arabic has many different meanings to it. One of them is this intention, right? Like qasd qurbat, for example, we do certain acts for qasd qurbat, for the intention of getting closest to Allah. Or qasd al-rija, for example, this hope that inshallah Allah accepts our amal. And so even if, and I don't want to be caught up in the linguistic discussion of this verse, but let's say, for example, that we take it to mean the translation, initially now, the first three words of this verse, where now Luqman is telling his son that find a balance in your walking. Now, we can either take that in a literal form, or we can kind of delve a little bit deeper to find out what does he mean by this. And tafsir naturally, obviously now, speaks about a different level than what we see on the apparent. First of all, let me make this point here in the beginning. And I know, looking at the various people who are right now, logged into the Zoom Majlis and those who are watching right now on YouTube, I know that mashallah, all of you are very well read, and you have heard, ulama who are, far more knowledgeable than I am. But just as a reminder to all of you, when you look at the way that the Ahlul Bayt present certain concepts and certain realities, okay? There always seems to be this underlying notion to find the balance in everything, okay? That never was there a prescription for extremes. The rejection of of ifrat and tafrit was always there. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam says the jahil is either lax, meaning he's insufficient, right? Or they're excessive in anything that they do. And sometimes even things, for example, I'll give you one example. For example, some things that even on the outside seem like this is a very difficult thing to reach a balance for. Even in there's a discussion on balance. So for example, our emotions. Okay, we have very strong emotions as human beings. The desire inside of us is strong. The anger is strong. I read a majlis yesterday. It's been I mentioned this today as well in a different majlis. It's been a whirlwind of weekend. That's why I think half my voice is still with me and half my voice is moving away from me. But nonetheless, I talked about anger in that majlis. Because these days of Fatimiyya, they create a lot of anger inside of us. And sometimes we see, Facebook posts or hashtags or, things that are said on the minbar that really, kind of have a little bit of a aura of anger around them. And we have to make sure that while we understand the anger, and naturally all of us, when we think about how our mother now was shaheed during these days, it makes us very angry, and we should be angry. But the deen of Islam and the Ahlul Bayt's prescriptions were never about the existence of the anger. They were always about the expression of the anger. And there's a big difference between the two. Islam has never said to ignore the emotions inside of you. Anger is a natural emotion. If you don't get angry, something is wrong with you. It's not the fact that you are angry, it's what you do with that anger that's the kamal of the mu'min and the believer. So even within a discussion of akhlaq on these emotions, there is a balanced level that we are trying to achieve. Even in something that bidahir, on the apparent now, anger seems like it's a very vicious emotion. When I think about anger, I think about rage. I think about violence. I think about oppression. Right? I don't think about the fact that there might be a desired characteristic that might come from the faculty of anger. But that's exactly what the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt are teaching us. That even though anger might have this image of being very, very repulsive, there actually is hidden inside that anger a very beautiful trait that you must now extract. Please follow me very carefully, and let's keep our mics muted, please, whoever is on the Zoom call, inshallah. So, first of all, we understand that in emotions, there are those who are either insufficient in those emotions or they are excessive in those emotions. And like I said before, Islam and specifically the maktab of the Ahlul Bayt reject this level of extremism. So for example, in anger, it's very possible to have an insufficient level of anger. Somebody who simply becomes a coward. Somebody who becomes heedless and ghafil and indifferent. Someone who becomes careless almost. Someone, it doesn't matter to them if, the oppression is being done right now all over the world. Doesn't matter if, let's say, the Holy Prophet is disrespected. If somebody disrespects their family, they have no sort of emotion. There's no anger. They never get angry. Even in moments where you're asked to get angry, show some emotion, show some fire. No. That is a problem. Right? Even a lack of anger is a problem. And of course, the excessive amount of anger is also a problem. You become an animal, you become a tyrant, you become the Fir'aun, either be it inside of your home with your family, God forbid, or everywhere else. You lose control of your tongue, your mind, your limbs, God forbid. So we know enough to know that the insufficient level of, or the limited level of anger and the excessive level of anger, this is just an example, by the way, is something that we reject. What lies in between is a desired state of anger, where from that anger now, the quality called shuja'at or courage is extracted. From anger, it's very possible to extract courage. The ones who are brave, the ones who are courageous, the ones who are shaji' in Islam, actually that quality resides from their ghadab, from that department of anger. So in everything that we do now, It's very possible to extract, let's say, that darmiyani, that medium, that balanced approach to that emotion. Shahwa is no different, aql is no different, every other emotion is no different. Desire outwardly is a very animalistic emotion. And in other religions, it's frowned upon. Desire is all evil. Islam says desire is not all evil. Desire is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, provided it is controlled properly by the aql. If it's controlled properly by the aql, modesty can come out of your desire. So now here we have two very ferocious emotions like anger and desire, and from it you can actually be courageous and modest. Beautiful characteristics, provided we reach that balance. And sometimes I think in our attempt to be humble, in our attempt to be egotistical, this also kind of is there. And these first three words of verse number 19 speaks very directly about the fact that Luqman is saying, find that moderation in your walk. There are some people who are egotistical, narcissistic. There are some people who are very filled with themselves. There are some people who have this self-love, self-loathing, self-worship quality inside of them. Islam says that it's shirk. We end up now buying into the individualism, this fard girai of today, where now we've replaced God with the idol of the self. As Rumi says, the mother of all idols is the self. That is excessive. Then there are those who are overly humble and they have this humility that is also excessive. You don't need to be that humble and that much humility. Brother, would you mind, coming and reciting the dua after Salat al-Maghrib? Oh no, how can I recite dua, brother? My tongue is a tongue of the sinner. I myself am barely hanging on. These are the words of Allah. Where am I? Where is this tongue? I can never. The adhan, no. The Quran, no. Me, no. I'm a zero. It's a bit excessive. Just come and read the dua. It's okay. You'll be all right. Don't worry. Right? We meet somebody that is, mashallah, a scholar, someone who's very knowledgeable, and we're in half ruku, and we're bowing down, and and it's to the point now where, out of respect for this person, we're making ourselves zalil. And all of that is great, but all that is meant for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stand up straight, talk properly. Give him his respect. Absolutely, don't strip him of that, but don't make yourself zalil in the process. And sometimes I think that, we misunderstand the idea that it's okay for me to be walked all over, sometimes by family, sometimes by community. No, Islam says have some respect for yourself. Even humbleness has its limits. There has to be a middle path of either being too full of yourself or so humble that you're a doormat. No, Islam says have some respect, have some self-worth. Imam Ali says the one who doesn't have qadr shinasi, worth of themselves, they'll be halak, they'll be finished. There's a balance there. And in these first three words of verse number 19, Luqman Hakim is saying that you need to find balance in your walk. There are some people, let's at least look at the actual literal meaning of it. The zahir of it, the apparent of it. Okay? Even in the speed that we walk, there are problems, right? There are those who walk very fast. They literally walk very fast. And they have, they run into the difficulty of either missing out on details because they're walking too fast, or stumbling because they're walking too fast, right? So they're all about getting there, but with zero quality. Just get it done. Wait a second, calm down, slow down for a second. Then there are those, mashallah, who walk so slow, they have no care in the world. Nothing at all. They're walking, they're whistling, they're looking around here and there, like they have no aim in life, nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, nothing. Carefree, hand behind their back, whistling away, this and that, stopping to smell every rose. Let's go. You have somewhere to go. You have something to achieve, no goals in life, nothing to do. Both of them are a problem. There's a darmiyani middle portion. But this is not what this verse is talking about. There's a deeper meaning behind Luqman's advice. When you walk with a middle ground, you walk with purpose. You walk towards your goal. And that's what I want to speak about today, is walking in this world, but walking with a purpose. Because the second advice that follows right after the next 3 words of Surah number 19 only makes sense when the first 3 are understood properly. A lot of my youth out there ask me, oh, Sayyid Asad, what's my purpose? What am I doing here? What are we supposed to do here? Blah, 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 right? And the problem sometimes is that we set these goals for ourselves, but they're unattainable sometimes. Massive goals that require an immense amount of sacrifice that your heart isn't ready for. I'm going to fast every single day. I'm going to wake up 1 hour before the Adhan of Fajr. I'm going to stay up until sunrise. I'm going to memorize the Quran. Those are great, lofty goals. MashaAllah, may Allah give you more tawfiq. But the problem is that sometimes we get disappointed so much that we say, you know what, I tried, Maulana, I did my best. It's not for me. Nowadays, it's not for me. Namaz, not for me. Fasting really isn't for me. Like some emotion telling you, yeah, namaz might be, right? This for me business now has really ruined a lot of our youth. As the Quran says, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It could be that you despise something. It's actually very good for you. It's actually very good for you. So sometimes just how I feel doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry. Power through that now and establish. What's important, however, is that we set attainable goals for ourselves. The first time you leave the house, you go for a walk. Within 5 minutes, you're out of breath. And you thought, you know what, I'm going to go for my everyday 45-minute walk, a 5K run, blah, blah, blah. You reach the end of your street and you're panting and you're sweating and you're holding your knees and you're keeled over and you're almost passing out. Baba, take it easy, man. You have not left the house in like 10 months. Let's take it easy. 5 minutes, fine today. 6 minutes. Let's get to the post box tomorrow. Let's get to the park the next day. Literally, they say, people who are long distance runners, they don't think about the fact that I have to run a 20-kilometer run. No, they say 1 kilometer at a time. And the deen has always been a very meticulous, monotonous, inch by inch, goal by goal movement. Islam does not prescribe go big or go home. No, neither do they prescribe these massive acts of worship done inconsistently. Imam Ali says those acts of worship that are small acts of worship but done consistently are far more beloved in the eyes of Allah than the big ones that are done every 6 months. It's easy, I'm sorry, to arrive on the nights of Qadr once a year and mashallah the entire nights now you do the amal, beautiful amal. That's easy enough. Going for Hajj once in a lifetime, sorry, is easy enough. It's the everyday worship. It's the 2 rakat Fajr, 3 rakat Maghrib. It's watching what you will look at, watching your tongue every single day. Those things are the ones that mean something. Those things have currency in Allah's eyes. Now, when you set your attainable goal, and it could be anything. It could be, you know what, I'm going to start eating right tomorrow. Okay, so no bread, no rice, no sugar, no dairy, no coffee. Whoa, hold on, 1 second, yeah, 1 second, right? Maybe, okay. Let's at least start off with, instead of me having 2 rotis, I'll have 1 roti. Maybe instead of me having 3 cups of chai with 2 spoons of sugar, I'll have 2 cups of chai. Right? Maybe, I want to wake up earlier, so I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. No, you're not. You wake up half an hour before that. Even the ulama say if you establish Salatul Layl in your life, do it 2 rakats at a time. One alim told me 2 rakats at a time for 40 days. Then after 40 days, attach another set of 2 rakats. And then after now 80 days, attach another set. There's no rush. The deen of Islam is not a race. It's a journey. It is a suluk, and you are the salik, you are the musafir, and you're constantly on the journey. It's a monotonous, meticulous climb up the mountain towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to now create attainable goals, whatever that means. If you're someone that sleeps in, like I said, half an hour. If you're someone, let's say, for example, that wants to fix your body 5 minutes at a time. Now what ends up happening is that when we walk now on that goal, we walk with a purpose. Okay? Once you walk with a purpose, a lot of benefits happen after that. And this is now where I really want my young guys out there to listen very carefully. When you have a purpose in mind, when you are locked in your purpose, when you are going to sit there, you know what, I'm going to go out for a walk every single day, doesn't matter how cold it is outside, for at least 10 minutes. And then next week, it'll be 12 minutes, then 14 minutes, and blah, 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 so on and so forth. When you go out for your walk now, you are determined. Have you seen small kids? My kids right now are I mean, everyone now is doing school at home, right? They're all on their devices, all on their Zoom sessions, right? My young guy is in senior kindergarten. Senior kindergarten, and true story now. He has to do a craft. This is a matter of, you know, just last week. Has to do a craft. The craft is to cut this box out and then glue it onto, you know, this other piece of paper. He was making rabbit ears. Okay. So he has the glue stick, he has the scissors, he has the cutout where the dash line where he has to cut. That's it. And he starts, and oh, you should see this guy. Little 5-year-old, his tongue is out, he's focused, his eyebrows are down, he's cutting so perfect around the edges, and nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. The doorbell rings, doesn't matter to him. Someone drops, let's say, for example, their iPad on the floor, it doesn't matter to them, right? Nothing else. He's so focused. All of the noise around him are not distracting him from that purpose. He wants to go ahead and be the best cutter and then glue it and blah, 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 everything. When you walk towards your goal, with purpose now, you actually now end up voiding out all the noise outside of you. There's too much noise happening nowadays. There's too many distractions nowadays, and our youth are consumed with those distractions. When you have that purpose, then you are focused on that purpose. I have to get to that mailbox without stopping. Nothing else matters. The car drives by, a dog comes my way. It doesn't matter. I am set on getting in that mailbox. All distractions out there that are made to pull me off the path, I avoid them. I'm walking with purpose. Luqman is telling his son, walk with purpose. That Darmiyani speed, right? It's not an actual speed. It's not measured by clicks per second. What he means by that is find the balance, meaning find the purpose now. Find an intention. Find that qasd that you want and walk towards that purpose. So the first benefit when you actually have a purpose and you're walking towards it now is the fact that you are now able to avoid and ignore all distractions around you. Secondly, you feel accomplished. You achieved that goal. And now, you know what? You feel like I've done something. Today was a good day. I did this today. Yeah. I was able to get up half an hour before every other day. I was able to get my work done. I wanted to do this, for example, and I did it. I was able to get through the whole day on only 2 cups of chai, for example. I'm good. Pat yourself on the back, say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and go to bed and enjoy that victory and move on. Attainable goals, walking with purpose. The other major benefit is that you now no longer need validation from anybody outside. You don't need that talia, that shabash, that way to go, that pat on the back. You don't need a subscriber, a like. You don't need someone to retweet someone. No, you don't need that constant validation. The fact that you had a goal and the fact that you met that goal was validation enough. And when you met that goal, when you're able to cut 1 cup of chai out, when you're able to get to that that mailbox without passing out on the sidewalk, then that to you is your validation. That gives you self-worth. You don't need everybody else outside. You don't need the external world telling you that you're beautiful or you're fat or you're skinny or you're religious or you're accepted or your fashion is great or you're too extreme of a Muslim or you're not enough of a Muslim. All that noise, it's noise now. All that noise is quieted. You have your own internal validation through your purpose. You have to walk with purpose. To my youth, walk with purpose, Luqman says. Don't allow anyone to dictate to you that you can't do this, you can't do that. Now, when you come to the second piece of advice, وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ. Lower your voice. Lower the volume of your voice. Don't speak too loudly. Again, a layman like me could think, okay, apparently he's saying don't scream or don't talk loud. Okay, that makes sense. But no, look at it now in the context of the first discussion. Who is it that makes loud noises? Who is it that has to now call attention to themselves? Right? Those are people now who are loud in gatherings, who have to stand up on mountains and look at me, look what I did, right? One small little thing and a hashtag, one small little act of goodness and a selfie, right? Everything has to be posted on their social media or sent to their WhatsApp groups or whatever the case may be. All of these things. That's the noise. Luqman's saying, look, if you're able to walk with purpose, you don't need the noise. You can lower your salt, lower your volume, lower your voice. You don't need to announce everything that you're doing. One thing that we've lost is the beauty of being anonymous in Islam. Do it quietly, do it secretly. The Prophet says that the act of worship that's done in the utmost secrecy has the highest reward. Why? It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to keep it to yourself, the goodness that you did. That nafs inside of you pokes at you and pokes at you and pokes at you. Tell one person, tell your wife, tell your spouse, right? And hopefully, in the back of your mind, I hope she tells her siblings, and it goes back to, right? Utmost secrecy, being anonymous. Those are people that don't need to what? Raise their voice. Meaning what? Don't need to announce everything. There's no billboards, there's no commercials, there's no hashtags, right? In this era of consumerism, people are obsessed, right? They can't do a good act without some sort of camera following them or without some sort of angle and lights and I don't know, God, what else? And, did you catch that? Yeah, I did. They edit it. They add their intro and their outro and a little bit of music, and then they post it on the Instagram, right? Hashtag good deed of the day. It's a good deed. It's great. It could have been a great deed of the day had you put the camera away and just simply did it out of the sake that it's goodness. So now when he says walk with purpose and keep your volume down, meaning what? Just worry about fulfilling your purpose. Okay? Now, one example I want to give. What happens now? You'll say that what happens now if I don't meet my goal? If my goal is to get to God, for example, that should be the ultimate goal. Everything we do, from cutting out the chai to walking to the mailbox, let's say, for example, to getting up early, all of it is for God, right? I'm not asking you to set goals that go away from God. Obviously, that's quite obvious, right? I know my majma right now. I know my crowd. I'm not going to hold your hand towards what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say. What happens if I've tried that, Maulana? It's not working. I'm not able to get it done. Okay? And I will use the example of the GPS software inside of our phones, the apps, okay? I'm sitting there on the driveway, example I used before. I'm sitting on my driveway. I've never been to this place before. I'm about to reverse out of my driveway. I pop in the address in my GPS. It tells me how long it'll take. I go through the directions to find out where I have to go. Okay, perfect. I begin to drive. Now it's guiding me. Turn left, turn right. In 300 meters, take this exit off the highway. Perfect. So I begin my journey towards my destination. And halfway through, I was supposed to make a right, and I made a left by mistake. It does what? Does it shut down? Does the phone collapse? Does it say, you know what? Forget it. Just go back home. You have no idea what you're doing. No, it reroutes. Rerouting. And within a second now, it finds another route for you. It doesn't get you there. It gets you to the point of your deviation. So it might ask you to take 3 rights, 4 more lefts. It'll get you back on that road that you made the wrong turn on. It'll reroute you 1,000 times. If you make that wrong turn 30 times in a 21-minute drive, you make 30 different wrong turns, it doesn't matter. It'll keep rerouting you, provided that you don't change the address in your Google Maps. The destination address changed the same, it will reroute you 1,000 times, it doesn't matter. Don't change the address. Don't change the destination. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is no different. You have him as your destination. You have him as the ultimate goal, and you sometimes knowingly, not knowingly, consciously, subconsciously now make a wrong turn when you thought you were going straight. Allah will reroute you and reroute you and reroute you. And there's no limit to the rerouting. Provided what? Provided that you don't change the destination in your GPS to anything but G-O-D. You remain that to be the destination, everything else will take care of itself. Everything else. I have yet to see a moment where God has given up on somebody. Yes, you are sitting there, you're facing, you're drowning in the sea and you're asking for tawbah from Allah. At that moment, of course, now that's an obvious game after so many chances. But that same Fir'aun that now is drowning in the water, begging Allah, and now I accept the Rabb of Musa, is the same Fir'aun that Nabi Musa was told very specific instructions to go back to him with a very specific approach. Nabi Musa leaves Egypt, goes to Madian, 10 years with Nabi Shu'aib, marries his daughter, brings his wife now back to Egypt. On his way back to Egypt now, he becomes a prophet of God, correct? Enters Egypt, is told now by Allah, you are now to confront Fir'aun. Okay? But he says, Allah, I don't want to go alone. Give me my brother Harun. Okay, you have Harun. Now both of you go towards Fir'aun, and when you speak to him, قُولُوا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. When you talk to him with a soft tongue. Talk to him with a soft tongue. Now Mufassirin have done bahth. Why the soft tongue? I mean, does someone like Fir'aun deserve a soft tongue? A naram lahja, as you say in Urdu? Does he deserve it? This is one of the biggest mushriks of the time. This is an enemy of God, ridiculing God, denying the concept of one God for the entire universe. He believed in a version of God, yes, but not the version that should be there. This is an oppressor. He's a tyrant. And yet the hukam to Nabi Musa is talk to him with a naram lehja. Surah Taha, verse number 44. Okay? Surah Taha, verse number 44. I want to read it verbatim for you, just in case I don't want to get it wrong, right? And then afterwards, why are you asking him to talk to him with a naram lehja? He then says, قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَغْشَى. Maybe, just maybe, because of your soft tongue, someone like Fir'aun might have khushu in his heart for me. Or he might fear me. Right? He might remember me. There might be dhikr of me. Who are we talking about here, God? Fir'aun. So he hasn't even closed the door on someone like Fir'aun. God has left the door a little bit open, and hopefully with the tone of Musa, that door will come open. If Fir'aun at that moment turned back to Allah with the dhikr and the khushu and that fear, then Allah would accept him. We have no reason to believe that Allah said, no, Fir'aun, I'm sorry. Yes, where Allah closed the door on Fir'aun was when he was facing death. At that moment, God's very clear. That's not true tawbah. But I gave you ample opportunity. The point I'm trying to make is that was Fir'aun's rerouting. If he chose, but he didn't. He replaced G-O-D and he put himself there as the destination. That's why he made ample amount of mistakes upon mistakes until, of course, he drowned in the water. My point is that, verse number 19, Surah Luqman, 31st chapter of the Quran, 6 words. The Quran is beautiful. The fasahat and balaghat of the Quran is outstanding. It doesn't need long-winded explanations. No, sometimes these short little discussions are life-changing. There are people who talk for hours and hours and hours. Like me, 45 minutes, I'm going on and on and on, and nobody benefits at all. Not one person benefits, and there are those that speak for 5 minutes. They open their mouth, and your life changes. The Quran's balaghat and fasahat is outstanding. 6 words in the beginning of Surah Luqman's 19th verse. It's life-changing. Walk with a purpose. When you find that purpose and fulfill that purpose, you don't need all the noise around you. People now who are subservient and enslave themselves to the noise around them are people who have lost their purpose, are people who are walking aimlessly, are walking without any hadaf, without any purpose, with no intention. There's no qasd in their work. When whatever you do, find the purpose. The Holy Prophet says to Abadar, everything you do, attach a niyat to it. Hatta even when you sleep, even those mundane, everyday mubah acts, attach a niyat. Convert the mubah acts to a mustahab act. How do I do that? You do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it's eating, changing your clothes, going to sleep, brushing your teeth, whatever the case may be. Walk with a purpose. Because when you walk around slowly, looking around aimlessly, fursat upon fursat, right? Absolute free time, no care in the world, carefree, blah, blah, blah. That's the arena of shaitan, hadith says. That's why I often tell parents, keep your kids busy. Keep your kids busy. I grew up, playing all sorts of sports. If I wasn't studying, I was playing sports. And so, when we heed this advice of Luqman al-Hakim, and this is where the Quran is a living miracle. These verses speak volumes today. All this talk that the West talks about mindfulness and emotional intelligence and being woke, for example, and being present in all these things, and the youth call me and say, Asad bhai, how come these things aren't discussed in the deen? What does Islam say about mindfulness? What does Islam say about meditation? Are you serious? All these things are Islamic terms. Islam talked about contemplation and tadabbur way before they could spell the word. Islam talked about the beauty of salat way before this idea of zen and yoga and hot yoga and this yoga all came about. Islam talked about emotional intelligence way back when it talked about your ghadab and your shahwa and your aql and your wahm. All these things are already there in the deen of Islam. It's just a matter of us extracting it and applying it into our life. My brothers and my sisters, these are life-changing advices. And this is the very deen that the Ahlul Bayt sacrificed for. And sometimes the sacrifice that they made is quite heavy. We look at, for example, the principles of the life of Sayyidah Fatima. There was 2 instances where she left her home. She never left her. She would never leave her house. 2 instances where she left her home. One was in the wake of injustice and oppression in the form of fadak, and one was to defend the walaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen. These things were very near and dear to Fatima. But for her to go through what she went through, for her to be shahida the way that she was, it's difficult to fathom. It's hard to understand. It's one thing where you arrive at the door of Fatima with an intention, looking to bring Ali out, get him to do bay'at of the first Khalifa, legitimize that Khilafat. But then one would think that when you hear words like the beloved grandchildren of Rasulullah are in this house, when you hear words like the daughter of your Rasul stands behind this door, surely you would think that the conscious, the hearts, the aql, something now would tell you that what am I doing? Let's turn back. This is ridiculous. But it seemed like the more she was trying to explain to them who she was and who was in the house, the more difficult and the stronger the anger got. We don't care who's in that house. If you don't send Ali out, we'll burn the house down. She stood there, the lone defender of the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. An 18-year-old pregnant woman. Behind the door, confronting now, not one man, there were men there. There were groups of men there. And the way that the houses were built back then, specifically the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the main door would open, then there'll be another door. And that door will be part of a wall. You then open that second door, and now you're into the actual house, just to cover and to protect the non-mahrams inside the house. Why is that important? Because when the anger got to the point now where they were filled with rage, and they shoved the door in, Fatima was found between the door and the wall. In front of her was this door that was opened by several men at a force that was unbelievable, and behind her was the wall, crushing the daughter of Rasulullah and making her Mohsin inside of her stomach, now Shaheed. The pain was to the point where she fell unconscious. Can you understand how much pain there must have been for someone to fall unconscious due to the pain? We hear that in Masa'ib and we move on. No, there's levels of pain. There's degrees of pain to the point now where the body loses consciousness. That's how much pain there was in Fatima. On the ground now, unconscious now, bleeding from her ribs. They grab Ali, they go to the masjid now. Fidda comes and begins to tend towards Fatima Zahra. When Fatima now gains consciousness, she forgets about her ribs, she forgets about her fetus. She simply asks Fizza, Aina Abul Hassan, Aina Abul Hassan, where is Ali? Where is Abul Hassan? She now goes after Imam Ali, comes back from the masjid, whatever happens there happened. Now, inside of the hujra, inside of her room, she says to Asma bint Umays, Asma, so long as you hear the dhikr of Allah coming from my room, know that everything is all right. The moment that dhikr stops, know that I've left this world. Asma now begins to listen to the dhikr of Allah, the tasbih of Allah. There comes a moment now when that tasbih stops, and Asma calls out, Ya Fatima Zahra, Ya bint Muhammad. There is no response now. She walks in now, lying there, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. At that moment when Imam Ali finds out that Fatima is no more, Fatima already gave her wasiyat to Imam Ali. Ali, I want you to wash my body. Ali, I want you now to wrap me in kafan. Ali, I want you now to bury me in the middle of the night. Ali, I don't want everybody at my janazah, at my mayyat now. The Muslimiyat of my Mawla, washing the body of his wife. How many husbands do you know in our community who do the ghusl with their own hand of their wife? No one does that. The moment that someone's wife now has left this world, the committee now comes in. We'll do the ghusl, we'll wrap the body, we'll have the grave dug. You worry about your children, you worry about yourself, you grieve on your own. But the Mazlumiyat of Amir al-Mu'mineen now, in that ghusl khana, on one side is Asma, on one side is Ali, washing now the broken body of Fatima. At that moment now, that famous shriek could be heard. The ashab of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the close ones, Salman, Abu Zar, would ask, Mawla, with all due respect, I'm sorry, Mawla, please accept my apology. Inside the ghusl, we could hear you crying like we've never heard you before. What was that about? And Mawla Ali would say, Salman, what do I tell you? I had no idea the extent of my Fatima's injuries. When I was doing ghusl, I realized that her ribs were completely broken. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give us that tawfiq, inshallah, to understand the advice of the Quran and implement it inside of our life. We ask you, Allah, to protect us from any virus of the body and any virus of the soul. And finally, Allah, we ask you for the sake of Fatima Zahra to make us worthy of the arrival of the Imam of our time, inshallah. Fatima Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Haiye mazluma Fatima Zahra, mazluma Fatima Zahra. Haiye mazluma Fatima Zahra. جیسے صدمے तूने बीबी ہے اٹھائے رات دن گر یہ پڑ جاتے دنوں پہ مثل شب ہو جاتے دن ہائے معصومہ فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا تیرے در پر خود رسالت جھک کے کرتی تھی سلام پر نہیں امت نے سمجھا تیرے اس در کا مقام در جلا ڈالا فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا بعد میرے پیار سے بچوں کو رکھنا یا علی نہ کبھی محسوس ہونے دیجیے گا میری کمی رو دیے مولا فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا شب کی تاریکی میں میت کو میری لے جانا تم یا علی ان ظالموں کو ہرگز نہ آنے دینا تم تھی وصیت یا فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا زخمی پہلو کو سنبھالے تھی نہیں دلگیر وہ جانے کیوں حسرت سے تکتی رہتی تھی شبیر کو سوچتی ہیں کیا فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا بعد میرے کربلا میں شہ کی نصرت کے لیے یا علی فرزند ایک عباس ہونا چاہیے کرتی ہیں یہ دعا فاطمہ زہرا ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا سینہ شبیر کو چومے کبھی کا گلا سینہ شاپر کو چومے اور کبھی شہ کا گلا چوم کر زینب کے بازو کرتی ہیں آہو بکا. یاد آیا کیا فاطمہ زہرا, یاد آیا کیا فاطمہ زہرا. زخمی تن سے زخمی من سے غیر حالت ہو گئی. وقت وہ آیا کہ بی بی کی شہادت ہو گئی. عرش تھر آیا فاطمہ زہرا. ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا. زینب و کلثوم و فیضا شبرو حیدر یہاں. دور کونے میں کھڑے شبیر روتے ہیں وہاں. ماجرا ہے کیا فاطمہ زہرا. ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا. سن کے آواز شہیدی کھل گئے بندے کفن. آئی بی بی کی صدا اے لال میرے گل بدن. من ہوں تجھ پہ فدا فاطمہ زہرا. ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا. ہائے مظلومہ فاطمہ زہرا. یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. اللہم صلی
صلی
علی
علی محمد وآل محمد. متوجہ زیارت. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم انت السلام ومنک السلام ولک السلام وإلیک یعود السلام. سبحان ربک رب العزت عما یصفون وسلام علی المرسلین والحمد للہ رب العالمین. السلام علیک ایہا النبی ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علی الائمۃ الہادین المہدیین. السلام علی جمیع انبیاء اللہ ورسلہ وملائکتہ. السلام علینا وعلی عباد اللہ الصالحین. السلام علی علی امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیکی یا فاطمہ بنت رسول اللہ سیدۃ النساء العالمین. السلام علی الحسن والحسین سید شباب اہل الجنت اجمعین. السلام علی علی ابن الحسین زین العابدین. السلام علی محمد ابن علی باقر النبیین. السلام علی جعفر ابن محمد الصادق. السلام علی موسی ابن جعفر القادم. السلام علی علی ابن موسی الرضا. علی ابائک السبعۃ وابنائک الاربع ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علی محمد ابن علی التقی الجواد. السلام علی علی ابن محمد الحادی. السلام علی الحسن ابن علی الزکی العسکری. السلام علیک یا صاحب عصر والزمان. السلام علیک یا خلیفۃ الرحمن. السلام علیک یا امام الانس والجان. اجل اللہ فرجک وسهل اللہ مخرجک وظہورک وجعلنا عوانک وانصارک ومستشهدین بین یدیک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علی اہل بیت النبوہ ومعدن الرسالة ورحمة الله وبركاته. دعاء امام الزمان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم يا كريم.